Good morning and welcome to the special meeting of the Holiday Island Suburban Improvement District Board of Commissioners. Today's date is Monday, November 22nd, 2022, and it's 9 a.m.
Do you want the October financials first?
I call the meeting to order at this time. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Secretary Brown, can we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Chairman Dyer,
Here.
Commissioner Childers,
Here.
Commissioner Callison, here. Commissioner Stamps,
Here.
and Commissioner Brown here. All five are
I declare a quorum. You've all had an opportunity to review the agenda. Any additions or any concerns about the agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion to accept the agenda.
here. I move to accept the agenda as printed.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Brown, seconded by Commissioner Stamps. All in favor?
Aye.
1:30.
We do not have any minutes to approve today. We'll move on to announcements. Do we have any announcements?
I just have one thing, it's not really an announcement. I had an opportunity to go on Friday night to hear the Holiday Island Singers at their typically Christmas sing-along. And one of the things that we've all loved about Holiday Island are the clubs and all the multiple clubs and organizations that people can be a part of. And my worry during COVID was that those were all going to fall by the wayside. And so they only have 13 members in their choir, but it was wonderful. They did a marvelous job. They had an audience of probably 60 people who thoroughly enjoyed the event. And I just want to say kudos to the Holiday Island Singers for resurrecting their organization and treating us to a lovely evening of Christmas music.
I agree. I'd like to echo what Suzanne said. I was there at that concert, and Vicki Shutters has taken over the director's role, and wonderful musician, former music teacher, and everybody just enjoyed it. And also they usually have the singers at the clubhouse after the lighting of the Christmas lights. I'm not sure if that's going to happen this year, but the lights are in charge of, who's in charge of that is Mayor Keys, and they're going to be working on that next week. And several of us here around the table help with that. And that's always a good scene as you come in the front gate to see the lights lit up.
No, the lighting will occur on the 6th of December,
Okay.
followed by refreshments and the singers at the clubhouse.
Okay.
Good way to,
Good.
and the Chamber's got a huge event.
Ma'am?
Just a minute, I'll let you speak during the public comments, but I want to give you a kudos for the Chamber's spirit as well around the holidays. So, any other announcements? If not, we'll move to public comments. There is a 3-minute limit. If you're on Zoom, please raise your hand if you'd like to speak. And first up will be Barbara Talbot.
Good morning, and thank you for allowing me to come today. I'm never quite certain with the special meeting, but I'm always at least going to ask because we have nothing but good news to share with the Chamber of Commerce. As most of you know, we are very busy at the Chamber, and we're not letting up to finish the year. We were invited to participate with the Eureka Springs Chamber of Commerce a while back to participate in their parade. Our chamber will be represented in that parade, but I'll also be represented with my Spider and my Flipside trailer over there. So I'll be lit up. I said, I want these lights to be able to be seen from Mars. So I'll be there with that, plus my son is going to participate to ride in
We've
the
got all the
parade.
announcements, and Barbara Talbot's there talking about whatever. You were supposed to have announcements.
I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear what.
It was a Zoom person
Okay.
that was not muted, so.
I got you. Anyway, we are going to have on December 11th a full day of events beginning at 10 o'clock that morning, and it will go till 7 o'clock that night. I have for each of you, and I have an appointment at 11, so I'm just going to hand you what is also being published online and will go in the newsletter for HICID this week. 10 o'clock that morning, you'll have 3 buildings that are participating. 1 Park Cliff, 3 Park Cliff, and 5 Park Cliff. In 1 Park Cliff, we have a common area winter wonderland that is being put together right now. Kathy and David Bischoff have put in at least 20 hours just this weekend alone. It's absolutely fabulous. You know, I went over to them yesterday and I said, I'm through with my spreadsheets for today. If I can be of any help, I will be. But otherwise, I'm probably a bump because I don't have one creative, artistic bone in my body. So they have been working really hard, and we will be offering some additional opportunities to have adults and children come because it's absolutely fabulous, and we're very appreciative of Andrea and Robert Evans for allowing us to even pursue this project in that building. At 3 Park Cliff Drive, again, Andrea and Robert have been instrumental in helping the Holiday Island local market get started again. We want these market people to continue to come, and they're going to come special for that day because normally they come on Sundays and Mondays. They're going to be offering craft participations for adults and children and other activities going on in that building. Miss Tracy's is going to have a world of activities there. She's pretty busy, as any of you know. So I want to invite all the residents, organizations, and businesses to participate in our parade. I have handouts that I'm going to give each of you on my way out the door, if I may. But please spread the word. We want this to be a wonderful community activity with a high attendance, and you'll be getting more details as we draw near. But with Thanksgiving, I appreciated the opportunity to come today.
Thank you. And for anyone that wonders where 3 Park Cliff is, it is the building where the sheriff's office, where the Holiday Island Planning Commission has met for years, and now the new home of the chamber. So,
And don't forget Circle of Life is in that building as
oh,
well.
okay. All right. Yep.
None of us want to do that, but
A wonderful organization.
Any other public comments? I believe the district manager has a comment that came in via email from a resident. Would this be a good time to read that, Danny?
Yes, sir, and I have that here. This comment came from Miss Rebecca Sherman. She asked that we share this with the board and any attendees and those of you on Zoom. It states, the newsletter that is attached to the Holiday Island website is not part of the actual website domain, but it is a separate charge from the web host. The last time I checked FOIA, the cost was $9.95 per month. It is paid for by HICID assessments. As a government newsletter paid for by property assessments, there's nothing free about this newsletter. The newsletter is not an advertisement area. It is an extension of the HICID government business. Outside organizations, businesses, clubs, restaurants, churches, and the new Holiday Island City are not HICID business. When people are asked to sign up for the newsletter, that is nothing more than data mining information. In addition, since PDF files are being created for the district office to upload the newsletter, items like this meeting today with the Zoom sign-in cannot be clicked on or copied easily by the residents. When the HICID newsletter is used to announce Mr. Presley, district manager, speaking at a Rotary Club function, that opens up some possible open meeting law violations for some elected officials, both with the CID and the city. Let the Rotary Club utilize their own website for their organization's business. If the argument is, but they don't have one, then suggest that the Rotary join the Chamber of Commerce. That is what a Chamber of Commerce does, and their businesses should be on their newsletter, not the HICID government newsletter. In closing, as long as everyone continues this hopscotch of information, no one seems to be informed in a proper manner. Knowing this argument is also brewing in the neighborhood, I am in favor of Zoom meetings for the community. I would like to thank Carl Marcus for setting up HICID's own YouTube account for viewing meetings after the fact. It is my opinion that more people would participate in their local government business if that business would take place in one location at one specific time and date. People will learn how to be better involved in their local government when government sets the example and leads. Signed, Rebecca Sherman.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comments? If not, we'll move to the next agenda item, reports. And we were emailed several days ago the Carroll County Sheriff's Office report for October. Any comments on that? If not, I would accept a motion to receive and file the sheriff's report.
So moved.
We do that.
Well, I just,
Okay. Well, if you're just doing it, I make a motion, would we approve the receipt of the sheriff's report?
I'll second
all in favor?
it.
Aye.
Thank you. The next report, the financials, we are 100% up to date now on the financials. You've got before you the October financials for the CID. Any comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank the office staff and everybody who worked on this. This is 10/31/21 is the period ending, and I've been on the board about 4.5 years, and I can't remember the time that we've gotten them the next month, which is November now, November 22nd today. So that's great. I really appreciate all that work, and Jennifer and everybody who's trying to get these accounting practices better and more smooth, to operate more smoothly. But I don't have any questions on the actual balances or current assets, but
I have a comment. I came down and, when Jennifer was here, and thought I was only gonna spend 15, 20 minutes asking her a couple of questions. I spent an hour and a half, and I understand this better than I have all year. I've struggled. I mean, I could understand obviously the revenue and expenditures. When it came to the balance sheet, there were lots of things that are labeled where it's not clearly evident what's in them. So it really helped me to spend some time with Jennifer and really understand what's in each one of these numbers, and I really appreciated that.
Would anyone care to make a motion to approve the financials?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, sir.
I second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Callison, seconded by Commissioner Childers to approve the October 2021 financials. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Carl, how soon will the October financials be on the website, sir?
By 4 o'clock.
By 4 o'clock today? Wow. We've stepped into the 21st century.
Mr. Chairman, could I go back? I know it's, I should have asked for an agenda change, but going back to what Sherman's letter that Danny read, Does that mean that none of the churches that are currently advertising on the Holiday Island newsletter, that none of the churches as well, if they have a website, can put their services on Friday's newsletter? I'm just a little chagrined at.
Is that directed to me, sir?
Right.
Is the question for me?
Yeah, well, since she made the suggestion or the allegation, I guess, about how we're doing this newsletter, I think it's incumbent upon us to say what we can have or what we can't have on it. You know?
Yes. I believe the intention of that newsletter is for all events occurring in Holiday Island. I believe that's our businesses, community organizations, churches, the hiking club or whatever we have going on here. And in my judgment, $9.95 is not only a very modest amount to be spending, but it's very appropriate to spend that amount each month to do a newsletter so that the residents know what's going on in our community. That's the purpose of the newsletter, and I think it's an appropriate expenditure.
Well, I did also, and I wanted to not leave the meeting without that being said. And I was the newsletter chairman for the Elks years ago, and we used to have to mail everything. It cost hundreds of dollars to mail. And now through the miracle of technology, we do everything by email or on the internet. So why not make everybody aware, like the concert that Ms. Childers just mentioned last Friday night. It was wonderful, but it was in the newsletter, and that's why we had about 80 people there. If it had not been in the newsletter, the singers don't have a website, I don't think, and nobody would have been at the ballroom. The Christmas lighting ceremony coming up December 6th, that'll be in this Friday or the next couple of weeks on newsletters. We hope to have 50, 60 people there singing Christmas carols and so forth. So I'm all for making people feel welcome here and telling them about all the good things we have, and to stifle the announcements is just, I think, the wrong way to go. So I agree with you, what you just said about this is a newsletter. It's the only one that I know of that's well done and covers everybody that wants to have an appropriate message in it.
It's the only comprehensive site that provides information for the whole community, rather than having to go to this place or this place or this place or this place. And if $9.95 ever becomes an issue, I'd be glad to fund it.
I'll fund it too. Because number one, we got to make, if Ms. Sherman would like to do a newsletter as comprehensive as that, we'll pay her $9.95. But this is very important to a community, all communities, to have what's going on. And
I can tell you from my training and experience, all communities, all cities pay for economic development as well as community events. We have an obligation for economic development, and along with that comes promoting your local businesses in your community. That's Economic Development 101, and we're doing it at a very inexpensive cost.
I agree. So, but, we live in a society where everyone has an opinion, and they're entitled to that opinion.
That's true.
We don't necessarily have to agree with it, but they're entitled to that opinion, and we have a process to allow that opinion to be heard. So we've done that, and obviously, the majority of the members of this commission see value in that newsletter and would like to see it continue on. So, thank you. Moving on to new business, or businesses, I guess. First, we have an old business item, which is really what prompted us to have this meeting today. Continued discussion and consideration of the 2022 budget. And we've been going through a process, and by the way, this is a $4.8 million budget, which is a very significant amount of money. We've been going through this process for several months now. We've had opportunities to hear from all the department heads We've had for several weeks now before us a spreadsheet comparing budgets over the last 5 years, and we've had a lot of discussion around it, and I guess we need to continue that discussion today. There are a couple items before us that we need approvals on. One being the cost of living increases for the employees of HICID. And the second being consideration of a short list of capital improvement projects that were proposed by the district manager and the staff. And so I guess maybe we ought to address the cost of living increase for employees first. Would that be appropriate? We were given 3 options. I don't have those 3 options in front of me. Do we have that, Carl, that we can bring it up on the screen?
Can you go down to, can I sit down?
Sure.
For a second? Let's see if I can get this all on one page here.
Mr. Chairman, at the bottom, what we thought the board asked for last time that we met a week ago.
Yeah, we had an informal, I think, agreement.
Yes, sir.
Where we needed to go, but
And so that's what we have in here. This is with the raises and adding the $12 minimum, which was option 3.
yes.
And that's what's depicted here on this spreadsheet, which leaves us a balance after the raises and the $12 minimum, a balance of right there, $381,734 to apply to the capital projects as prioritized by the board.
I'll just ask informally, is the board still in favor of that 3% cost of living for all employees and the increasing the minimum wage to $12?
Hi, Mr. Chairman, and I think we really are blessed that we have the employees that we do, and I'd like to make it more, but everybody knows budgets, and there's some places that didn't get any cost of living, and others have more, and some of the cities are using federal money, COVID money and so forth, to give bonuses, the Eureka School District and so forth, of people that have worked through the pandemic, but our people have gone through it and done a great job, all 50 or 51 of them. So I'm pleased to support that option 3 on the budget.
I think it's important, I look at employees and our obligation to them, and our number one concern from our position should be retention, retaining the employees we have in place. And secondly, we need to be competitive. Believe it or not, there's a local market of people who do similar jobs to what our employees do. Whether it be Eureka Springs, Berryville, Green Forest, Cassville, whatever, there is a local market. And we need to be aligned with them so that we can attract employees and offer employment with a very competitive wage. So,
Well, I'd like to make a comment as well. The employees of Holiday Island have to be kind of a special group of people. Number one, they're asked to do a lot of things that may not be in their job description. And they do. And therefore, they're not just like somebody that in any place else. This is kind of a unique place, and they're special. And we need to keep them.
Yes.
And we need to make it attractive where they're not driving to Rogers, and they're not driving to Bentonville, they're not driving to Beryl or Eureka Springs, or hopefully they're coming to Holiday Island instead of going there. And we need to keep them. So, yeah, $12 is very fair. It should be more. and particularly with their talents. And I think we would be able to look at that. Yes.
Any other comments about it?
I would just say the strength of our, the district is the quality of the employees. And we want to pay them fairly, and if we could do more, I would do more if we could. But that's what we can do this year. And it is a 3% increase, and I'm glad to provide it.
We need to, yes, Dave?
No, go ahead and finish,
I was going to say, we need to be mindful that we have a number of employees, John, for example, and Dan, and the specialized licensing that those employees have, which is so critical for us. We also have people like Kenny, who has tenure here, who's been here for 21 years, Kenny? Is that correct? Yeah. And the staff in the office, those ladies, are 20-year people, and that knowledge and experience brings a lot of value to us. So we need to be fair with them and make sure that they're properly compensated. So, yes, Dave.
Okay, and trust me, I'm not an expert on this stuff at all. But, but now, Danny wasn't gonna take a 3% increase, and is Chief Lediger getting a 3% increase also?
No.
No.
His contract had a built-in increase that becomes effective in December,
Okay,
and it was already contractually obligated to give him that raise.
okay, and trust me, I'm not picking on the golf department here, but I see there was a raise for John and David and them, of a certain percentage, 10%.
10%.
Is part of that 10% the 3%, or are they getting
Yes.
13%?
It's inclusive.
Yes, that's total of 10%.
Okay, with the 3% cost of living and then the additional?
Yes,
Okay.
and I did that because John has achieved his certification as a golf superintendent.
Right.
And as I mentioned, one of 17 in the entire state. And that's an extremely important achievement. It brings a lot of value to Holiday Island,
And once again, I wasn't picking on you.
Oh, no,
I was just wondering if it's really a 10% or a 13%.
and it's a 3 plus several.
Right, yeah, oh, that's fine, okay.
Good question.
But frequently, you have to make adjustments to keep an internal consistency and those kind of things too.
And to stay in the market
And
for
stay in the
what
market.
a golf superintendent's salaries are.
Yeah, that can be eye-opening. Having gone through the
Yes.
selection process for a new fire chief, and hearing what other fire chiefs are compensated, so. Should we move on? Go
I'm
ahead.
just gonna make one of the, so I'm looking at this, and it says, the 274 with raises, and then 276, so a little over, just a bit over $2,000 to get all the employees up to $12 an hour, the wage. So basically, it would be safe to assume if we wanted to do $250 an hour, it'd only cost us another $1,000 for the year, basically.
I would have to do the math, but I follow what you're saying. I
Right.
think that would be pretty close, yes. sir.
I'm taking it we don't have very many employees at the $11 an hour.
We have about 55 employees, and of those, now this is off the top of my head, we probably have half of those that are part-time employees making $11 an hour.
Okay.
And what I would like to do, Commissioner Kellison, is to bring them next year, maybe from 12 to 13, and incrementally try to get up into,
Okay.
$15 an hour
Right.
over time.
I'm fine with that.
Excuse me, are most of those employees at the pro shop, the ballroom and so forth, or some roads or the water that are allowed?
I believe at roads are all full-time. Water, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe you have any part-time, do you? So most of those are at the pro shop and
Rec center.
the rec center.
I think we discussed it at an earlier meeting that this group of people had not had a pay increase, a cost of living pay increase, some of them for 4 years, a lot of them for 3 years. And, you know, that in our economy and seeing inflation in our country the way it is, we all know what pressure we're under as individuals maintaining our households, and our employees under the same kind of pressure. So I think we have an obligation to begin the process on an annual basis, as the district manager has said, to move them up. So,
I agree. And that was what I was going to ask. It's been 2 or 3 or 4 years since.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask this, on the fire department, there's open 2 full-time people that are open. Now, we have not approved that, have we? Okay, good.
Well, may I comment on that,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
yeah.
One of those positions, Mr. Stamps, is an approved position. It just happens to be vacant at this time.
Yeah.
The other open full-time position was actually hired. It was authorized by the previous district manager to go ahead and overhire that extra full-time position so that he had 1 full-time person on each shift, A, B, and C. And so he has been doing that for about the last 6 to 8 months. He's been a little bit over budget in doing that, but not as much as I expected. So one of those positions is an authorized position. The other one is a position that was not budgeted for '21, but it has been filled during '21.
Been filled, was not budgeted.
That is correct. That was a
Well, it
decision made prior to.
It wasn't
By the
budgeted.
board, I
Yeah.
guess, made that decision.
I think it was like March or April, do you recall, when Chief Linecker came and made us all aware that there really was only somebody at the firehouse from 8 to 5. And so he was looking for somebody around the clock, and that did take an extra personnel. So we didn't have that many people. I think he's been covering a lot of them with what I would call substitute firemen, you know,
Volunteers and
Yeah.
part-time.
part-timers.
And I apologize, Larry, I misunderstood your question,
That's right.
because the chief was asking when he made his presentation for additional staff to, you know, to enhance his staff. So ultimately, I think he'd like to have the minimum of 2 per shift.
No.
I believe he was-
But that's,
he started out at 10.
yeah,
We knew that wasn't
No.
possible.
No.
and he understands that, so.
No.
Well, I also brought up, I think in a meeting, and I asked the chief about raising the volunteers' pay. They show up, they get $7, and we sign these checks every Friday, some of them. And fortunately, we haven't had a whole lot of fire calls, but do we have in the budget, we've talked about it, but raising that, and he said he would like to raise it. Did we do that? Show up fee for a volunteer firefighter?
To go from $7 to $10.
Okay, that's it.
No, sir. To answer your question, that is not included in this budget proposal. Now, it's something that we, you know, if the funds are there, because perhaps the chief underspends in a certain item, you know, we could make that change. But we would have to wait and see how the expenditures play out over the next few months.
I would recommend that we look at that in 2022 during the calendar year, and because many of us are getting older, and many of us are too old to be a volunteer at 3 in the morning. But to do that and come out and get $7 for it, you can't even buy a Big Mac for a meal for that right now. And gas is over $3 a gallon.
Yes.
And so if you live outside of the confines of Holiday Island, to come in Chief, we're talking about show pay, $7 for firefighters, volunteers. And as I mentioned to you, and Danny said that maybe we could do that during the next budget year if funds were available to raise that up to $10. And you mentioned at the last meeting how many volunteers we had, and we're talking about full-time, part-time, and your staff. But I think many of the people who live around me are single widows, and I've seen your ambulance come at 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning, many times. And sometimes there's 2 or 3 pickup trucks that come, EMS and EMT, to help those people, those ladies. So I think it's really important that we at least give, $3 is not much to go from 7 to 10, and I hope that would help to keep a few people more on the volunteer roll than would be otherwise. But we can't use any 833 money for that, that's only for equipment, is that right?
I believe you can use 833 for salaries. Is that correct, Chief?
No.
Okay, no?
You cannot use Act 833, it's only for equipment and apparatus.
Okay, and training.
And, yeah, training material, that kind of
Okay,
thing.
Let's say we had $5,000 that we didn't spend on equipment, but it's not 833 money, and we needed $5,000 for 2022 to raise it up to $3, we could do that budget change with your approval.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I would recommend that.
Any other discussion around salaries before we move on to capital improvement projects?
Well, I had one, and it seems the chief just came in to hire the people that you talked about last week. Our salaries, now these are full-time people, not volunteers, but our salaries in that area sufficient to attract anybody here?
We have actually, I have a few that are kind of waiting, so we have plenty of people to hire if we have the budgetary ways to do so.
Okay.
Carl, do we have the list of proposed CIP projects?
Yes.
Please. The budget, as we were looking at it there, with the salary increases for the employees, the cost of living, left us with about $381,000 that we could potentially spend on capital improvement projects. We were given a short list of projects that were identified by the various department superintendents, and we're going to be looking at those projects. I would really encourage the board, though, to keep in mind that we're still facing some substantial repair costs over at the rec center.
And the water system.
Pardon?
And the water system.
And, well, yeah, the water system continually raises its head, Hopefully the money that the city and our district manager are working through to get from the state might help us with some of those, especially nasty parts of the water system. But you can't be guaranteed of any of that.
I would make a proposal that all capital expenditures be put on hold, not approved, until we find out what the rec center's gonna cost, until we find out what we're gonna get for the water department. Because those are two assets that got to be fixed. Chief, I'm sorry, you can drive the truck another year. These things have got to be done. It's utmost importance that our infrastructure of Holiday Island be taken care of, be brought up to date. Yeah, the area down in Mission Hills, that's AC pipe. That's what the state would approve at that point in time. They would not approve you putting in PVC pipe. They later changed that, and thank goodness we got PVC because AC is rigid. PCV it's a little more pliable.
Flex.
And, you know, times have changed, and thank God we got rid of Dr. Kellogg at the health department because he was strict. It had to be this or nothing else. And we finally got that changed. But that was a long, hard battle. But that area up there on Mission Hills is AC, I believe. And that was put in. And probably wasn't bedded properly because they didn't think they had to because it was so hard. Well, it does. So, anyway.
That is an area though
Get off my
that
soapbox.
would be covered, as I understand it, by the project money that's been requested from the state of Arkansas,
But not got.
but not gotten yet. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So, just using the chief's truck as an example, my understanding was that that kind of comes from a fund that they didn't really know they had the money from, and that money couldn't be spent on water lines or any other thing. It's for
That's very true.
That's my understanding.
Yes.
okay. And I will say this. I think, you know, before, as far as getting money for infrastructure, everything might have been 50-50. But I got to believe with the passage of that infrastructure bill, which is really for roads and water projects, that we probably have 80, 20, 90, 10 chance of getting money. So I think there's a good chance of that.
That's down the road.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I think they're going to try and get it out as quickly as possible, just because.
I certainly hope so.
I haven't seen too much moving very fast in the federal government.
Well, only when it serves them.
Carl, can you shrink, oh, I guess I'm not looking at the right place. The budget summary, my understanding was that the bottom line figure, which I don't think I have the latest bottom line figure, already took out 220 for roads and 138 for water. And then we were going to decide what to do with the remainder,
Yeah,
right?
the 381 reflected a short list, and Carl, if you could find that.
It's on the budget summary.
Here's the approved so far.
Yeah, we don't need to see that.
Okay.
We need to see the budget summary.
Okay.
We didn't approve that.
It's the far left,
Where left?
all the way to the end, highlighted in yellow. There you go.
Yeah,
There you
there. Yeah.
So there's the CIP, and the only thing in there, Mr. Chairman, is the 220,000 for roads.
Oh, okay, it didn't include the water. Okay.
Now, could I add something? I sent the board an email describing the contract for water tank maintenance,
Yes.
and that was 72,000, I believe. That is actually shown in purchase services, which is where we have all of our contracts. It is a contract, so we moved that to purchase services. So it is included.
It's in there.
It's not under capital, but it is plugged into this budget.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question? I was one, I guess, that wanted a meeting with the city council and the mayor and this group, and we did have that meeting, but one of the questions I would have if we were to have quarterly meetings like that is the question that Mr. Kellison just brought up, and that is, have the city applied for any of the infrastructure money that was just approved by Congress last week, and or have they applied for any, if it's available, any of the COVID federal money that many of the cities around here are getting? That would be a question.
They did answer that, and they have. The COVID money, they were rejected.
Okay.
They got nothing because it was my understanding that that decision was based on the fact that they did not have a city budget in 2020.
Right.
And that was a bureaucratic decision, I guess. you know. But the current request that they're working with
ESI.
ESI, our consultants for water, that process is moving through the Department of Agriculture in the state of Arkansas, where they have literally billions of dollars to disperse of this federal money. And I think the feeling is quite positive that, you know, we probably somebody, Danny and the mayor or somebody, will have to go to Little Rock to testify before that group and make a presentation. But they're very hopeful that that's going to happen. And that's for all these 4-inch line, the streets with the 4-inch water lines, where we have a lot of problems.
7.5 miles, I think, was
Yeah.
what you're looking at. You know.
No, $7.5 million. Was
Well, no, I did you had it.
You did $1 million a
$1 million
mile.
a mile.
Yeah, so it correlates. yeah.
Oh, right. I mean, but I was just, but
7.5
you had it like 190,000 feet, and I'm like, I don't get that.
Yeah.
I get 7.5 miles, but I have one question. I mean, are we on, so if the city gets money, say the city applied for a grant for water lines or something, and they got the money, are we on solid legal ground that they can give the money to us
Could I
to
respond to that?
Yeah.
The grant application is in HICID's name, not the city. So it's a HICID grant.
But I mean, but the city should be, I mean, can they apply for grants too, for
In
things
this-
to help our infrastructure and then, you know, use the money? I mean, because to me, it would make sense to apply for everybody to apply for everything and would get, so what I'm saying is if the city got a grant to improve the water lines, but we own the water lines, could they legally give that money to us? Do we know where we stand on that, or?
I believe that question parallels the same issue with the railroads.
Right.
If they give us the money, there may be implications about the ownership of those assets.
Okay.
And that has not yet been fully resolved.
Right.
But there is or will be some collaboration between the city's attorney and the district's attorney to work out those issues.
Which is why I think it's, you know, like I say, I think it's extremely important that we're addressing these legal issues, because once we can get them settled, then we can really have a clear understanding of what we can do.
Absolutely, I think it's very important, and we need something more than just opinions. We need an actual legal decision, and hopefully that's what we'll ultimately attain on several issues. But you know, in the city's defense, they're acting on what they feel are the best interests of the community, and we're very supportive of that. And we want it, obviously, to come to an end with a positive outcome. But the mayor has told me that he's had some very encouraging, I guess, support from the attorneys at the municipal league. So, you know, that's a positive, but ultimately, maybe we'll get a judge's decision and, or even the attorney general, who knows?
Yeah, no, I think, like I say, I just, my main thing, I mean, I know there was some question on the roads, but did that kind of all apply to all infrastructure and the basic principles of the law would, you know?
Yeah. And there are alternatives, Dale, that can be explored, ways maybe to satisfy both. And so we'll have to wait and see what these attorneys, what they decide. So.
But most of the grants that we apply for, are we applying, as I said, are we applying for grants from the state or grants from the federal?
It is a state grant, but it is federal money that will be funneled through the state.
Okay.
I'd like to get back to Larry's question about the rec center. Do we have a timeline when we could get an estimate on
I met two different contractors over there on, what day did we meet? On Thursday of last week. And one contractor was very willing to take on the job, wants to do some diagrams to present to the board with some costs. And the other contractor was a little hesitant, I think, because he's got so many other priorities and jobs going right now. He's not sure that he has the subcontractors to tackle this.
So do you think by the first of, well, we're having a meeting in December, do you think we'd have somebody to give an estimate that would be viable to go forward with by our December meeting? Maybe?
I think that's a good possibility, yes, sir.
Are all these contractors licensed, bonded?
I will have to check on that. I would say yes, because they're big reputable contractors, and I don't mind telling you, one is Anthony McLaughlin, who's done a lot of work, throughout the district. Terry Presley, who's done numerous projects throughout the district, and he lives here on Bandy, where he built several houses. And he's preoccupied now working on a subdivision down in Huntsville, so he's stretched thin. And I can't remember do you remember the name of the others that we spoke to?
D&W and Luke.
Yeah, Luke, that's Wade. Yeah. Wade and Luke were the first names of these other two contractors. Hopefully they will be here today or tomorrow to take a look. I'll follow up with them.
Yeah, well, I kind of agree with Larry. To me, that rec center is huge. I mean, that is something that needs to be addressed. So it would help me if we could hold off on deciding on anything, so we can get a solid cost or something with the rec center. Because that's a big question mark, and we know it's not going to be $50,000. I'm hoping it's not going to be $400,000, but I think we're somewhere. I would expect rough guesstimate 150 to 200. So basically rebuilding the house inside there.
Carl, can you shrink that down so that we can see what's in that CIP column and then the bottom line in the corner? You'll have to shrink yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now, what's in the capital expenditures is $220,000 for roads.
And
The $65,000 that is designated fire department funds, which is for the fire department anyway. So really, the only thing we have in there right now is the 220.
yes, ma'am.
And the bottom line figures, Carl?
381.
381. We could either just decide to accept this budget as is, and then amend it once we find out what the rec center is going to cost.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask that, I'm confused about the fire budget. When we had the 5.5-hour meeting last week, we discussed a lot of that fire. Is that figure that Ms. Childers just mentioned money that cannot be obtained from any other source? You know what I'm saying?
That's money that cannot be spent for any other reason.
Then,
It only can be spent for fire department.
okay.
Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am, you're
That's what I
correct.
thought.
It is
Well-
what we call restricted funds.
Okay.
Okay.
And they actually come from the state, right?
That's correct, yes. And it has been accumulating over many years. I'm not sure why that is, but it had accumulated to the point of $122,000.
So the $65,000 that's in here for a new vehicle is being paid for by the restricted funds?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, that's a different story.
That's a question I wanted to ask.
That's a different story. That's not cash out of my pocket.
That's
Okay.
Well, it was.
Now we're beginning to understand what
It
happened.
was at one time out of your pocket. It's just gone through.
Assuming that's Chief, that's what you want to do?
Correct.
Okay.
And so, I'm not exactly totally sure what I'm looking at. I'm slowly figuring it out. I mean, to me, the rec center is something that needs to be addressed sooner or later. But is anything in here an issue of safety concern?
Could we, Mr. Chairman, go to the CIP list and just go through that?
That would be fine,
Okay.
yeah. I
Let's go to
was hoping that we
CIP.
could bring up that short CIP list that we were all given several weeks ago.
I think that was in an email.
All the way to the right. There it is. So these are the, and you could shrink that just a little bit more, Carl.
They're down to 100.
Thank you.
Focus on that.
So these are the list of impending CIP items.
Can we go
Aye.
on one stop, because I'm having a hard time seeing
I understand.
my,
Yeah.
Because my understanding was that once we looked at that $380,000 balance and found out how much the rec center was going to be, if that was, then we would expend the rest of it. And really looking at the water department and the pond maintenance and the swimming pool cover. Is that right?
And, well, it's quite a long list.
I mean, there's,
If I could, there's one particular item it's kind of a small ticket item in the scheme of things that we really have to put in there, and that's $7,500 for a water meter reader.
yes.
Those meter readers are very old. We had two. One of them is now gone down on us. You can't replace them with the same model. You can't repair the old one. So we have to buy the next model and then upgrade the software to make it work. And I believe it was $7,500. Is that correct, Dan?
We're at 7,600.
$7,600,
And
okay.
that's today, because if they're gone, the next group is 11,000.
Yeah. So we
More.
will have to add that.
I got a better deal.
Okay, you got a better deal? Good.
I mean, still $7,600.
7,600 is, and that's really nice.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So we plan to proceed with that purchase.
So,
Well, does he?
Danny, work us through this so we can
Okay, let's go to the top.
accomplish this in a logical way here.
And I may have to
Maybe
just
Danny
step
can
up
drive
here.
this.
This, I'll just come up here and point if that's okay. These HVAC units here for 20,000. This building has like 6 AC units in it. And it, covers different zones. And the plan was to do 2 a year over 3 years to get all those up to speed. We actually had $20,000 budgeted for 2021, and we just never got around to it because it was a complex situation. The old unit is in the attic where it's not really even accessible. And so the installer is going to have to rethink how to reconfigure that unit when they do the installation. So what I'd like to do is roll that money over to 2022, and then we could shift this 20,000 over to the following year. So we could leave this out, in other words.
Okay.
And then right here on line 11, we're talking water. The 9-hole booster tank rehab and paint if I'm not mistaken, that was accomplished, wasn't it? I thought all the painting was
Yeah, all
done.
paint's done.
Okay, so we could take that out,
That's,
is that correct?
no, I mean, that's what's in the purchase services though. You got the, you got.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Um,
so that's not really in that.
If you would, Carl,
Yes, sir.
zero this out, the 11,400 and the 27,000.
Well, but I thought that our
That was-
current contract was for like 30,000.
It is,
Okay.
it is.
Is that in
I
there?
moved that to purchase services.
So it's already in there, all right.
Yes, ma'am.
Carl,
It's
that
already-
20,000,
You want it out too?
that needs to move over to 2023.
Just step out for just a second, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
yeah.
23?
22.
Yeah, unfortunately.
23, because there was 20,000 that was approved last year that's in the 2021 budget that will move into, they're going to spend it in 22.
True.
So, and then the next approval will be in 23.
And
So
So
leave the
Sure,
20,000 there?
Water has enough money to buy that $600 thing in this year's budget. Just buy it.
let's wait for the
Yeah.
manager to get back.
So now we're down to the PRV replacement?
Yeah, so, I mean, the PRD replacements are something we don't postpone.
Yeah.
Right,
We don't put off.
right.
How much is that?
Well, actually, I think we did
25,000.
this year.
And when I'm updating these that are showing up.
Oh, okay, yep. What is that, sanitary surveys deficiencies?
Yes.
Yes.
What is that?
Well, that's when we have the inspector come through and he points out all the things we have deficiencies in, as far as like the pump house, the doors, the screens, and he finds deficiencies in when he does an inspection, so we have to kind of.
So that's a $10,000,
Well, that was just a number we put in there. We don't really have like,
you don't know what those deficiencies are
Right.
going to be until he does
Right.
the inspection.
right.
And what's right above that, the SCADA?
Yeah, the SCADA system, that's
SCADA
the,
system, that's an update on the software.
yeah, I
Oh, okay.
skipped over that, I apologize.
SCADA is a remote controls, it's where you can see data and you can change settings and controls remotely on like your lift stations and those types of things. So it gives him the ability where he can log in even from home. Don't you have VPN from home or where you can
It's on
log
his
in?
phone.
It's right here. Or on your phone or anywhere and see the status of the system, so.
So Dan, this is the software update for that system?
Yes, and we haven't done it for 3 years, so it's, I mean,
It's system controls and data access or something like that.
acquisition.
Acquisition. System controls and data acquisition is what SCADA
Yeah.
actually stands for. And it's a really good system. Any water, wastewater departments have that nowadays. I did talk to Dan about booster pump well number 5. Seems to be no issues there right now. We discussed it, those well pumps are designed to run for, 20, 25 years. And right now, we don't foresee any problems. I mean, it could go out next week. But they're all running fine at this time.
Which location is fine?
5 is the one on Thunderbird and Country Club.
Okay. The one that has that
Let's
looking,
Yes.
let's go ahead and deal with the SCADA system though. I mean, Dan, this is something you think is this a want or a must?
I guess it'd be more of a want than a must. There's not, I mean,
There's nothing wrong with,
no, it just, you know, it's old, just like everything else, I mean,
if you were
software,
spending,
you know,
yeah, if you were spending your money, Dan, would you do it?
No.
Okay.
And they do continue to support that, the version we're using now.
yes, yes.
Okay.
Thank you for your honesty, sir.
Kenny, can I ask a question? Kenny?
PRV replacement? Yes, sir.
Yeah, you were just said that, how many PRVs would that be?
We have a total of 37 PRVs in the system. 10 of them have been installed so far, and we're planning to install 5 more in 2022.
Okay, thank you.
That would be purchasing the PRV and installing it in
Okay.
2022.
So about $5,000 a piece,
25,000, so, yeah.
for a total of 25, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next item is the,
That's a must.
The water source.
yes. Yeah, the water source alternative study.
Okay. What about the deficiencies? Are you just gonna, what's our average deficiency cost? What is the average deficiency cost when they come to inspect?
This is
On the path.
actually a first line item we did last year, so it never was, you know, considered to be, but, so we don't have nothing to really to go by.
Yeah, are there, other than locking up $10,000 of our budget for that possibility, are there other funding sources, should there be deficiencies discovered, or?
I mean, this, when I look at it, it might even just go back into maintenance. I mean,
Yeah,
in your regular operational costs, because it's, you know,
What does it cost for the survey?
it's, they don't charge,
Can we get the survey and then see what comes out of it?
you know.
But if we, I mean, just for the record, if we keep that in CIP or we move it to maintenance, it's still going to hit that bottom line of 381.
yeah.
So,
Well, I guess, you know, given the fact that we have ongoing maintenance issues, I have no problem with putting $10,000 into the CIP budget for those deficiencies, given the fact that Dan can use it in other ways if needed, so.
make a note.
The water source alternative study, Dan, I don't think we talked about that before, or I don't recall it.
Well, that's what we want to deal with, ESI with, is try to figure out, you know, what is our next step. We don't have, our master plan is years old, and we don't have nothing new to go by. We keep talking about replacing 4-inch lines. Is that really where we need to go? We got, you know, what is our priority? Where do we need to go? What should we look at? And that's kind of what that alternative study is. Do we need to activate well 2? If we do, what do we got to do to get it functioning? So that's kind of what that study was going to kind of pinpoint what we need to do, where we need to go with this.
And that monies would be used to pay ESI for that study?
Yeah.
What's the board's feeling on that?
Well, I'd like to know what the next steps are, but boy, I sure ain't spend $35,000 to do it.
You know, that's the biggest thing is we're trying to figure out, you know, what should we look at? I mean, there's a lot of ideas and everybody's got one, and
Yeah.
but what, you know.
What do the engineers say?
What should we, you know, is it, you know, might be something totally different that we haven't seen yet.
What say you, board?
I don't know, you know, I gotta figure that you have a pretty good grasp on the water system. I mean,
I I mean, what we had in the past, we had a, master plan that was done by another engineering firm. We had it done, and they notated several things that need to happen. And nothing happened. So,
My take on the situation,
we just need to, what is it that we need to do?
right.
Is it 4-inch lines? Well, maybe it's not. Maybe it's, maybe it's the 8-inch lines. Maybe it's, what do we need to do to secure water for the rest of the year, another 20 years? I mean,
Right.
what do we need to do? Do we need to add, is it adding a stage to one of the wells, producing more water? We know we got a water loss problem. What, where are we gonna get our best bang for the buck?
I think there's a consensus based on what I know, and I'm the new guy, based on everyone that's looked at this water system, the 4-inch lines always come to the top of the list as that's got to be addressed.
Well, which ones we do first?
Correct.
Is there, I mean,
Because there are miles of 4-inch lines.
there is.
But I would say the one that had 37 leaks would probably be at the top of my list. Here's what I would say. I would rather wait on this, wait to see what kind of money we get to do some things. I mean, if the grant or whatever you're working on comes through, then $35,000 would be an extremely cheap price to pay to figure out what to do with all of that. Right now, spending $35,000 and we don't even know how much money we have to spend or where it's going to come from, it seems like, as long as I can turn my water on for another year, I'm happy. I can do that, can't I?
Let me ask a question. How much of this stuff down through here needs to be in the operational budget rather than a capital expenditure budget? I mean, we're not building assets. We're not building new assets. We're repairing old ones.
Well, I would agree, a water study is not a capital, is not really considered CIP in my mind.
Well,
I got the impression that this is really the big ticket items that we need to make decisions on above and beyond the typical operations and maintenance.
tank painting and repairs, that's O&M.
Yeah.
That's operation and maintenance. That's not capital.
Yeah.
Fire station,
We moved that.
Yeah.
a lot of this is O&M.
But we still have to find 381,000 to cut in order to, or if we funded all those and we forgot about the rec center, we have to prioritize this 381,000, right, to spend it?
Well, I think that the bottom line on that was 700,000, the requests, as I recall, because we moved some of them out of there. How much is that, 6-something?
690, 200.
690,
Yeah,
And we did make a decision on the docks too.
yeah.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
yeah.
So that's
I
150,
Take
right?
that 150 out under add slips.
Want to move to the next year?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
And so you can see that number's dropped to 540. And as we're doing this, that summary page is changing also, so we can go back and look at it and see where we're at.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, for the chief, this is a question I had, I forgot to ask last week. Is your staff checking the hydrants every so often, and are there some that need to be replaced, that would be a water item or a fire item?
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was actually gonna say something, when it comes to, remember, anytime you're dealing with water lines, I know we need to fix the water line, we do. It not only affects the homeowners, it affects the fire department, because that's our water supply. We have to check them to make sure that they work and so on. Well, and maybe this will help you make a decision, is, once we started checking them, we started breaking them. And so we started busting lines, so we stopped. until we could actually get that figured out beforehand, because oh heck, I can't remember how many we were checking, but we broke, what, 3 or 4 of them? And Dan wasn't happy with me, and I apologize. But at the same time, if I have an emergency and I need that hydrant as a water supply, and I find out I break it on the scene, that's not gonna do us any good. So, that's kind of why we test those, but, that's what happened this year. So, we kind of stopped because of that very reason.
So where do we go from here then?
That's a good question. Yeah, so, I mean, just remember, you fix those lines, you not only help the homeowners, you help the fire protection as well, so.
Is it not true, or it used to be, I'm not sure what it is now, anything less than a 6-inch line wasn't recognizable by ISO?
Correct, and that's what I'm trying to finish up, and hopefully it'll be finished up this year, and I'll give you a better understanding, or I'll have a better understanding of what we need to do. But yeah, water supply is 30% of our ISO.
And those lines that you broke
Yes.
testing, were those all on 4-inch lines, Dan? Yeah. Because I remember on Horseshoe, had the interruptions. But the rest of the community, we could test those lines, or those.
No, our 4-inch line. I want to say
More 4-inch.
60% 4-inch lines.
Yeah, there's more 4-inch than there is anything else.
Our plan, as we were reviewing all of these lines and compiling the application for the federal money, if you're gonna dig that up and replace that line, it needs to be a 6 instead of a 4.
Oh, yeah.
For fire protection. So the plan is to go ahead and upgrade all of those lines while we're in the process, because it's a very minimal cost to upsize the line.
So,
There's not much difference between 6-inch and 4-inch pipe.
Exactly.
Chief?
And I'm gonna say too, once you hook them bigger lines up to our hydrants, we actually get more of a flow as well, so that helps us. And so we really need that. So even if we do have a hydrant that only has a 4-inch line on it and it works, we're still not gonna get the gallons per minute that we need to put the fires up like we could with a 6 and an 8-inch line, so.
So anything that you just told us, right? I mean, that directly deals with safety and the ability to fight fire. So I don't know if you're going to use any of that information in your presentation at Little Rock, but it might be something to correlate the increased safety for the public.
Yes.
Because of the deficiency of the water lines that we have to protect our people. So
Absolutely.
you may give it him.
Yeah, we definitely, I think we talked about it kind of
Yeah,
already, so.
we did.
One of the things I will say too is, when we're talking about putting in lines, so I don't think we even know exactly how far apart, the spacing is, but it's anywhere from, 1,000 to 1,500.
Sure.
Okay, so if you do that, so where I'm getting at, we need to put the hydrants closer, because the farther the hydrants are, the more hose we have to keep on our truck. So, if we could space that out a little closer together, that is something that we need to look at as well, put more hydrants in.
Okay, let's go back to this list here, and let's accomplish this.
Well, I was under the, and I know I'm jumping around because I just saw the number up there. I was under the impression that Lauren was going to go ahead and take care of the garage doors because he had money in his budget.
That is correct. Now,
So let's-
So let's take that
Let's take
16
that out.
out or 15 out. It's
Go down to-
down below. That 15.2,
Yep. you take
that's
that
been
out.
taken care of.
And just for the board's information, the doors that exist there now are green. And the quote that we got for 16,000 was for like a beige or sand colored door, which is not gonna look right. So I said, we'll make them all green so that they all match. And so the
Good.
price for a green door went up to 20.
Yeah.
But, I mean, for aesthetics, it just makes sense to make the doors match, so. And he is going to proceed with that.
Okay,
Good.
good.
And I'm jumping around again, but it appears looking at this year's sewer and water combined, that there's over $7,600 still remaining that could be spent on that gadget that you need to check the water with,
The water reader.
out of this year's budget.
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. And so we plan to order that like immediately.
Let's go back to the water source alternative. What would the commissioners like to do with that item? $35,000. You want to bring it into the budget?
I'm for waiting to see the outcome of what happens with Danny's.
I think we ought to put it on
We've
hold.
lost all sound.
Carl, you want to move that to 23?
I think he's trying to fix some sound.
I can,
I'd love to do it, but
that usually resets
Okay.
it.
This
Right here.
Tell me that picture is gonna be it.
You have sound now?
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, now what was it you wanted me to take away?
The 35,000, Carl, for water source alternative study?
can you
Move
move
it
it
to
over to the
23.
next year?
Okay.
That's probably what's happened for the last 3 years, right?
And
Move it over to next year.
The
always happening.
the $12,000 lift station rehabilitation, Dan, that's an ongoing process.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out why that's up there and not down in the wastewater
It's,
thing. Is that because
It's
it's 21
$21,500.
we could move it down to wastewater, and that is for upgraded controls, correct?
Yes.
And you've been doing that yearly. So that is something that we want to maintain, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, wait, it is there. Delete that right there entirely.
Okay.
And then lift station.
Plug in
rehab.
$12,000 for lift station rehabilitation. No, over on the other side.
Well,
That's really both
yeah,
places.
you just busted the budget.
Yeah,
All right. Very good.
So the 41.5 goes to 12?
41.5.
Now, does the 12 go in that?
I'm looking at the 2022 budget.
Randy, on water and wastewater?
Mhm.
Okay, I see this list is here. So it's 9,000 there, 9,000 here if you want it, the same with the rehabilitation.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it says 2050, but
That doesn't need to be there, and that doesn't need to be there.
So in the lift station rehabilitation, isn't there supposed to be 12,000 in column G?
Well, we
No, that's
we
proposed.
we
You
proposed it, we
approved it.
proposed to approve.
You approved it, so it takes it out of there, Dale.
Oh, okay.
Okay, scroll on down.
And seal the paint is in a contract already.
no, that should be just deleted. That will never.
We know that the roads is already in there, so,
Yep,
fire,
We talked about roads, right now.
we already approved it.
Road improvement. Since Kenny's here. Was that, Kenny, was that a priority of jobs that you think we need to do more than any others, the roads that as we have every year, from your perspective, the paving of certain routes, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we did every year since I've been here, other than this year.
Last year.
And then back in '03 or something, they suspended it because of budgetary. Here again, folks, Yeah, we need to try to keep all of those, but until you fix these water lines underneath them, we'll waste a lot of money. I'd rather see that 200,000 go to water line replacement. Even if we have to put off any kind of payment for a year or two, and then we can fall in behind, try to budget some to pay it when it's all put back in.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just, man, we're spending a lot of money on paving, it's just being dug up again.
Dig it up. It doesn't make good fit.
No, I mean, my guys spend probably 60% of their time doing that, going back and fixing where he's fixed.
Yeah.
And coal match is just a patch, coal patch, it's a temporary patch, it's
Yeah.
not like regular asphalt,
Right.
it don't last.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, most definitely.
I mean, it's whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had talked to some people, they'd rather see go back to chip and seal more, because it's cheaper.
Well, and I've talked to you about that too, and I think we need to do both myself, and we're sure not the road experts here on this board. Our job is to give you the resources you need to do your job, and I wish we could give you $2 million to work on the roads and water lines, but we know that the reality is that money's gonna have to come from someplace else. But I guess rather than for us to think that we can call the shots on what needs to be done with that $220,000, I would leave it to the district manager and the superintendent to make those kinds of decisions. We cannot ignore our existing hard surface roads though. We've ignored them for several years, and we need to be doing some sort of preemptive chip and seal or whatever to maintain the ones that are deteriorating ever so slightly ongoing, but we still have to be focused too on what you're saying, the water lines and
I would just like to make a note though, when we just do normal single chip and seal, I'll have a contractor bid on it, whatever. They just chip over what the road's like. So it's still gonna be this.
Oh, yeah.
I get a lot of criticism. Well, mine is nice and smooth.
Paving the bumps.
The only way to get that is spend more money and do a level course of asphalt, and then come back and chip and seal.
yeah, well, everybody's a road expert, Yes, Dale.
I mean, I tend to agree with him. To me, the one infrastructure that is in worse shape is the water thing. And the roads that people complain about the most are directly related to the water lines. So, I mean, I kind of understand what he's saying. And I will say this, I mean, we have to look at the broader picture in the long run, or I'm saying in the next 5 years. The majority of the turnback funds that the city gets, which was, and once again, we're here at a legal question that it's got to be, but I'm going to, from the positive point of view, that we can do what we would like with the majority of that turnback funds, everybody kind of thought it was going to be $350,000, $400,000 is what we're getting, and that it was kind of a general fund thing. But from what I understand, when we had that meeting with the city council, 60–70% of that turnback funds has to be used on roads. So looking at the long-term forecast, we're going to have more money than we know what to do with for roads in the future, And so, like I say, and we all kind of agree that the water lines have got to be done before the roads can be done.
Right.
So I would be more apt to cut a good chunk of this 220, and, to use it towards the water lines. And I think within the next year, a lot of things are gonna be settled legally.
Yeah.
And it'll give us a chance to have a much better vision. I don't know, I came down here from Milwaukee and people talk about the roads here, and I'm like, man, these are gold. But you got a lot of people that do have issues with them. I understand that. But I think for right now, you know, there's, except for there's that 2 or 3 miles of roads that are just, like the Mission Hills and that is just totally, which nothing can be done about those anyway, that maybe we ought to look at reducing this and putting it towards the water. And then it'll also ease up in the rec center, while, yes, it's not, you know, life or death or driving, it's still an important centerpiece of this community that needs, because just sitting empty is not gonna get, it's not gonna get better. So that's kind of my opinion on that.
So getting back to Mr. Stamp's idea an hour or so ago, if we didn't do hardly any of these 381,000 and wait to see what the rec center is going to be, and if not doing the 220 for roads for one more year, we need to kick the can down the road literally again. But if we don't have the money to do the rec center, we can't do the project. And I don't think this board wants to go out and borrow money. You know, that's it. We either have it in the budget, and we have it in the treasury, or we go and borrow from the bank. One of the two. And we want to get the rec center back up in operation, right? So,
Rec center and water.
that's no bigger ticket item than the road, 220.
And I don't see it as kicking the can down the road. I see it as, we have to lay the foundation for moving forward. And things have got to be done in a certain order. And I think, like I say, the water line, to me, as far as infrastructure, is by far the #1 priority.
Kenny just said that we're just going to be cutting 200,000 over, whether it's chip and seal or asphalt, and if the water lines underneath are going to just keep breaking, we'll be able to Mission Hills everywhere.
But I would echo to Kenny's position. I mean, you know, he knows really the roads, and so I have to trust his expert opinion.
Kenny, the roads that you have identified as being done with that $200,000, were they not as badly damaged because of leaks or no?
I can't honestly answer that because when we did, 5, 6 years ago, when we did Mission Hills Hillcrest,
Right.
there was really no fault. Once in a great fall, and after about 2 or 3 years after it got paved, it just started blowing up very quick. I try to pick roads because of the subgrade that don't show a sign of pushing and shoving, got mushy spots, you know, as far as doing the asphalt. Even actually chip and seal, but then again, I've got a hard job because you've got roads that people live on that are pumping and they want their road out.
Yeah.
But the cost goes up exponentially when you have to hire somebody to come in and dig all this out. It could be 3, 4 foot deep. This clay, you know. And then water line got a leak underneath there, it's just feeding it all the time. That's why I'm not opposed to do road paving. I think we need to look at the cheaper cost, like you're saying, chip and seal, and maybe cut that down. The ideal thing would be is to try to get your funding or budget your money. Hillcrest, Mission Hills, Augusta, all 3 of them roads right there are 0.52 miles total. That's half a mile. 900,000 miles or something like that, put new line in, something like that.
About 800,000 a month.
So split that in half, a little bit more to upgrade to the, 6-inch line. And then budget to come in behind it to do some more work.
Yeah.
Try to get it in a cycle of where you're accomplishing something.
Yep.
I mean, I understand people want to keep the roads up, we can't just let them go ahead. But we also got to tend to the most important, what's causing it.
I agree with you 100%, and but my concern is we've got a huge amount of potential money pending from the state of Arkansas that will fix the water line, and I just don't, I know what the public sentiment was this past year when no money was spent on major road projects, and it didn't set well with the community. And
Do we have any time frame on this Department of Agriculture grant as far as, no, it's typical, they just open it, yeah.
It's
a political problem.
Because the problem
It's
is,
government and it's political and
It's a
it's
political problem.
very convoluted and the wheels turn slow.
yeah, because the problem is we'll never have enough money to address the water line issue.
Not without borrowing money.
Not without borrowing money. So, yes, you want to solve the original problem first, but if you can't afford to solve it, then what do? You know, where do you go from there?
Well,
You know,
I think that, once again, you know, there's a lot of money is gonna be thrown into the system. And they actually want to get that money out there quickly because that's their plan to basically save the economy. You know, I know you get a lot of people, we gotta fix the roads, but, you know, I've always said, sometimes we have to make tough decisions. You gotta do what's right for the situation, not what the public sentiment is sometimes.
Well,
And,
like Kenny said, why should we throw money on something we know that we're gonna have to dig up?
right, well, that's it exactly. I think, you know, and we say that government, the wheels of government turn slowly, but, you know, I think that this infrastructure money and these things, they want to get that out there and they want to get these projects started. And that, like I say, they want shovel-ready projects and stuff, which is why even if we don't know the legal grounds, the city should be, you know, I'm hoping they're putting in grants for everything they can. We should be putting in requests for everything we can. But I'm 100% with Kenny. We have got, as bad as we might want to fix roads, we've got to address the water lines first. And
But Dale, how much can we do with $200,000 as far as fixing the water line?
that's what I was wondering, how far
Well,
will
we-
that
we-
money go?
we can fix the rec center for $220,000.
Oh, yeah, and we intend to end up with that.
Right.
Well,
Okay.
in order to get any kind of money, do you not have to have a plan? Do we have an engineering study saying, okay, this is what we need to do? We need to replace 2.5 miles of water line here and to pave over it. That's a project.
We do have that.
Okay.
And that ESI prepared that, and they actually submitted the request
Okay.
to the state of Arkansas,
Okay.
which has garnered this next opportunity for an
Okay.
audience with,
And are we planning additional down the road?
Well, that would be the $35,000 we just shoved to next year, you know.
But the application that we sent in for this money, there was a plan that accompanied that application.
Thank you.
With measurements and, you know, exactly what we were going to do.
I'm a new kid on the block.
yeah, no, that's a
Join
great
the
question.
crowd.
And you know, it's,
And when's your meeting in Little Rock with them?
Well, we have submitted an application to get on the agenda
Oh, okay.
with the Water Commission. And then if it's approved, then we'll know, you know, we'll have a date for the meeting.
Then your oratory skills will come into.
so,
Okay.
there's a lot of unknowns. And given the fact that our budget can be changed at any time during the year.
Right.
What if we went ahead and put this $220,000 in the road department budget? If Kenny is, they found out last year, if you don't have, you know, a contract with a contractor early, very early in the spring,
You're not gonna get.
you're not gonna get anything all year, because they're booked up. What if we approved that and let Kenny have that money and move in that direction, using his best judgment? And if there's a need to change up, we'll change up. I think, Dale, if we go forward and are, you know, very conservative in the rest of this CIP budget, we will end up with $200 and some thousand that we can have it in a reserve for the rec center.
Right.
And,
Yeah, I'm not against
Yeah.
that, you know. Like I say,
and we can change.
we're
it.
trying to make decisions on data that's gonna be shifting with each month and stuff.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
difficult, but, like I say, you know, I mean, I'm learning a lot about budgets, but I do understand, you know, that you don't have to go out and rush out and throw out the 220,000.
Yeah.
I'm with him though, I think exactly what he said, you know, with that water line replacement, road replacement, you know, getting things lined up in the proper order and get it that we can start doing it on, so, okay. I'm
But
with that.
it's big bucks.
Mr. Chairman, I have another question about the other big ticket item in John's.
Can we deal with this one right now first? Ken, and
Let's move it.
Put it in the accepted.
Okay.
And take it out of proposed. Okay.
Road striping.
Now, which one
No.
did you want to move down to, Ken?
The golf course,
Can we do this in order?
yeah, I can't see it.
Okay, the next item is lounge flooring and that's a $5,000 item. That's in the eating area at the Clubhouse Restaurant to get rid of the carpet, which is
I'd say that's a must, not a.
gross. Yeah, I think if we're going to be in the food business, I mean,
Yeah.
that
Health-wise,
needs,
I'm sure that's,
pardon?
had we not been written up health-wise or having that there?
I guess we've been lucky, Larry. So Carl, move that, will you please, sir? The next item is the storage doors. Remove that because that's already taken care of. Or no, I'm
She's
sorry.
already done that.
I'm sorry. The next item is mine is as bad as yours, Ken. Remodel of the 2 bathrooms, a $20,000 item. And in our discussions, we all agreed there's nothing wrong with the restrooms as you first come into the clubhouse. But they also are, when customers come, that's their first view of Holiday Island, the impression they're gonna get. What's your feel on that?
My feel is I'd like to wait until June and then see what the budget looks like in June.
That seems reasonable.
That very, very much so. Thank you.
You
I
good with
mean,
that?
I
Dan?
want to do it, but I don't want to do it as badly as some of these others.
Yeah, it's not.
Right.
not my-
You know,
We can
my,
just move it over, I guess, to the next year.
The question would be, if we did it, what would it be for the bottom line as far as increased business
Take it out.
for the golf course? Would it help? I mean, right now, it may be for short term, coat of paint.
Yeah, and that could potentially be done with volunteers or the hourly people that Lawrence got, so just coat paint.
Bathroom design competition. Yeah, as far, I
The
think.
male versus the female competition. Who's got the best looking restroom?
Yeah, right now, it's lower on the priority list, so.
Scroll on down, Carl, now, to the next item, which would be $25,000 winterized pool cover. I did ask Danny about this. Evidently, the covers that they have today are aged to the point where they're not functional. Is that correct?
It holds them.
And I suspect that the pool covers are going to impact the plaster on the pool. And replastering a pool of that size has got to be very expensive. That might be almost an insurance policy.
But the cover doesn't cover around the area.
No, I'm talking
She's
about
not
the plaster
deck.
inside.
She's talking about the plaster.
Oh, I see.
Inside.
Yeah, when you have a pool replastered,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
expensive.
I understand.
So you want to protect that.
Yeah.
Now, we took the shade area out for
Yes.
temporarily, did we not?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to move that across to accepted?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's 150,000 to redo the surface around the pool?
Someday, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it all has to be removed first, whatever that coating is, that rocky material.
So we've approved that?
No,
No.
no.
Now that's
Okay.
bumped up to next year.
Okay.
Proposed.
And the next item is the collapsed water retention pond over on the golf course. And there's 2 ponds involved. They are part of a waste, or a rainwater retention system as it comes down the hill from Holiday Island Drive and that whole area. And they, literally, the wall of the one is collapsing and falling in. And the other one is so sedimented in, is that right, John?
I think so.
That it's
That's
become a shallow,
It's turning into a marsh.
stagnant marsh, yeah.
Plus, it's a
So what's the
once in
movement on that?
25-year project too.
I appreciate that John went into detail and explained what these two projects needed, and I think they are needed. But you always have the problem of non-golfers saying, how come you're spending this on 2 holes and, you're not paving, or you're not adding water lines or whatever. But if you have 27 holes of golf, and I wasn't on the board or near there when the approved building those, but if you're gonna have them, you gotta keep them up. And this is a big ticket item. The company has to come from Dallas to do this job. That's a long way to come with equipment and materials, and it's not gonna get any better. It's not gonna get any better.
Well, it can, in a way, I think we need to get it out of our mindset that it's the golf course. Because it's rainwater,
It's a
it's a
rainwater.
water detention
Yeah.
system.
Yes.
And it probably more appropriately would fall in Kenny's bailiwick, because it, but
It's retention.
it is
pond.
what it is, it sets on.
Yeah,
on
it's
the-
a retention
on the
pond, yeah.
And we cannot ignore it forever.
But that's a good response, but I wanted to bring up what we all know is gonna happen, right?
Oh, yeah, I know, I would, I personally think that the time has come to address it.
They change.
I would really like to see, if we did decide as a group to move it over to the accepted side, I would really like to encourage John to make a real effort to find somebody that is a lot closer than Dallas, Texas, that can rehabilitate that thing and save us the $25,000 cost of
Moving fee.
moving equipment in. But,
I can try and get other bids. I've been trying to get bids for this project for 3 years.
yeah,
And this is the one that I've got. It's pretty specialized,
Yeah.
to get somebody who feels comfortable rebuilding these ponds. So, but I'm willing to try. And look, if we decide to push it back again, I don't know that there's any, major repercussions of us just not doing it, as opposed to it's just very unsightly. It's the most, I get complaints about it on the golf course more than anything else out there. It's not gonna hurt my feelings if we decide that we can't. It does need to be addressed at some point. It's up to you, guys. It needs to be addressed, but, if you decide not to, it's gonna stay how it is. It's probably gonna get a little bit worse each year. I guess I don't know the engineering or the physics of how it actually is upsetting our rainwater distribution. Eventually it does, get up to that uptake and finds its way off into the woods where it goes. So,
Commissioner Kellison brought up about, and he and I talked about ways of getting more income into the golf courses or anything around Holiday Island. And we're doing a good job of getting outside play, as Lauren told us last week. But, when people say, gee, that's a great golf course you got there, but when they get to 12 or 14, especially 14, it's pretty bad. Not even looking at the part of retention of water and but the green slime over the thing, and you can't tee off in this area and whatnot. For $31, we're getting a bargain and a good course, but this would make it even better and attract more people, I think, more outside play.
Well, why don't we move it in there and then look at what the bottom line is?
Okay.
Because we're almost at the bottom of the list
Yeah.
anyhow.
we are, and that could be some, we could move it into the accepted.
So that's
Have it there,
where we're at.
that if needed,
We're
we
at
could draw
304.
upon it for the rec center.
Yeah,
you know.
If we find out it costs $400 in January to fix the rec center, you might lose it.
Honestly, if, I don't know where, I guess my lease mower package got moved into purchase services.
Yes.
That's really what I need to know
Yeah.
as soon as possible, whether we're gonna approve or not, because we're in a situation where I'm not gonna be able to get these mowers by the time we're gonna mow.
Yeah.
And I have a plan on, selling 4 mowers that we already have. If they buy these from us for the $10,000-15,000, and I can't get this new equipment in on the lease until June, I'm gonna be in real trouble.
I thought, Danny, I thought that was,
I thought that,
I think it's
I thought that
already
was
been taken
already
care of. I think it's in purchase
If that's in
service.
purchase
That's in
services,
purchase
it's
service.
included.
Yeah, let me look.
Leased equipment and purchase.
Leased equipment is in purchase services,
Yeah.
yes.
so, once, all we gotta do is approve the budget, and that's a go.
Yes, sir. It's in there.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, we're,
Okay.
I think you're okay.
And I'm with Suzanne on, if you want to do that, put it in the approved, but then if the rec center comes in really high,
I mean, this is just a plan that can be modified
that's right.
depending on, if nobody planned for all of those trees to blow down 3, 4, 5 years ago. You gotta take care of what happens when it happens, so.
So we, given the fact that we've already moved any replacement or addition of dock space at the marina over into the 2023 area and not in this year's budget, Carl, what is the bottom line here?
48.
now, this hit, okay. Did you have to move that 150 over to the,
Yeah, I already.
I did.
He did,
I'm
yeah.
okay.
But
All the way to the left. Keep going, keep going. There you go. We're at 154.
154.
and part of that's continuing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, can I ask how we and where we calculate the assessment for next year, given its total budget? If we were to approve it today, that would include an assessment amount, would it not?
That's already been figured in. That's been
It is
figured in.
Yeah, we took this out.
But the changes that we made up and down and back and forth in 23, will that show today, this morning? Will that show up here?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're in the budget that we projected with a 150. Are we out of the sheet that you went back to CIP, Carl?
Okay, you want to see?
Yeah, we want the grand
summary.
total.
The projected income is $4,200,000.
But
Of that, $2,700,000 is assessment.
but I want to know what my assessment is starting January 1st. And
I have
we're going to approve
a
that.
chart that's prepared for a proposed assessment for 2022. I could run and get that and let the commissioners look at it.
Yeah.
It's essentially the same. It's a 6% levy at 6% interest.
Okay.
So it's a very, very slight change
So-
from last year.
So the changes that we made, put some out to 23, took some out, put some back in, that's not going to change the assessment that you were looking at the grand total and then the 6%? Is that how you calculated it?
Well, we took the assessment revenue that we had for 2021,
Okay.
and we used that as a basis to project the assessment revenue for 2022.
Okay.
And then we started subtracting all the expenditures.
I've had a couple of people say thank you last year for us reducing the assessment. Let's call it even numbers, $800 to $762. Let's just use some round figures. And I've had 3 or 4 others said, why didn't you leave it where it was, and then you'd have a little more money given the city's money as well, turnback funds, and you could go and do some of these projects that we've been discussing, 5 hours last Monday, and a couple hours today. So I think the board should consider whether we want to keep it the same, or if we made it about where it was 2 years ago. You know, we've got to have enough money to keep the operation running, right? And I use the term kick the can down the road. I really like what you're doing, Dan, on PRV replacement, lift station repair, water tower painting, and so forth. And while I was here several years ago, we didn't do hardly any of that, especially PRV. We didn't know what it was. But I'm wondering what you all think, the board members, of what the assessment should be. And are we making good friends by having it the same as it was before? Or do we have enough money to keep the operation going?
Well, my
All right.
understanding was that,
What are you gonna have with fallout if you increase it up? If you start going up,
Yeah.
you're gonna have less pay. These people that own the lots are not gonna keep on paying and paying and paying. They're gonna fall out, just like we were talking previously. If, you know, they're 55 years old whenever they buy it, and if that's been 20 years ago, they ain't coming. And so they're not gonna keep on paying, and particularly if you try to increase it. It needs to stay the same or go down.
Okay.
my understanding is the projected assessment schedule was based on what was legal, what needed to be done based on
And it was
legality.
based on what's been done for several years. And I know last year it went down by like $20 or $30 or something.
Yep.
What I have projected or proposed was what it was previously.
I was thinking it was,
Going back to what it was years
it was like,
ago.
it was like up $17 or something. It wasn't,
It was very
Very minimal.
minimal amount.
I think even is actually a savings right now. I mean, you know, just given the cost of everything and inflation and stuff, if you can remain the same, you actually get a 5 or 6% savings. You know, as much as I would like to see it go down, once again, once we get all these little legal issues and stuff settled out, then when we do things, it'll be much more concrete, and I think the thing. But if we're kind of where we are last year, I'm fine with that.
Well, Larry, I appreciate your expertise and experience here, and I understand what you just said, and I'll be willing to approve this budget as it is, and with the assessment to come on that you recommend. Right.
Would you be willing to make a motion to that effect, sir?
I would. I would like to approve the budget for 2022 that we have in front of us with the changes that we made today, and we'll get a credit on that. And then also, if you want to bring in the paper, I don't have it on my...
For the assessment?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. We've got to go get that, and I can make copies.
So I guess I would first, Mr.
I
Chairman,
know I have.
I want to approve the budget that we just discussed with a final total of... Get that, or do we need to say that?
No, you don't need to say that.
I want to move that we approve the budget for 2022 right now.
Could I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Brown, seconded by Commissioner Childers, that we approve the proposed 2022 budget with the changes we made today. Let's have a roll call, I guess.
All right. Commissioner Dyer,
Yes.
Commissioner Childers,
Yes.
Commissioner Kellison,
Yes.
Commissioner Stamps,
Yes.
and Commissioner Brown, yes.
Motion's carried. Thank you very much, and thank you, department heads, superintendents, for your diligence and, you know, as Commissioner Kellison said, given inflation and everything, I think it is admirable that you found a way for us to do more with less. I appreciate it.
May I make one comment? Just a quick one.
Yes.
On that pond restoration, I still think it needs to be categorized as a district expense, not a golf expense, because what you're fixing there is not improving or just improving golf. You're working on an infrastructure item for the district. And since the public gets just overwhelmed when we say we're losing money on the golf course, that should not be a golf course expense.
I
I don't have a problem with that.
100%.
Yeah. We'll,
Does that change anything that we just voted on?
Then
no,
just
no,
moves it
no,
from
won't.
one
It'll
place
just
to another.
maybe change the classification if we can get, when Danny gets back, we'll. But obviously, from my remarks earlier, I agree with you 100%, and it,
I just think we need to do it officially.
Yes.
Just send your husband and
So, just so I'm in the.
Thank you.
Approved the reclassification, I can give it to Johnny right now, the first bidders, because it's going to be me.
I think we still want y'all to do it.
if you can, Kenny, if you can find less expensive bidders,
$1 million.
You got any ideas? I'm open to that idea.
It'll be profitable.
You know, the question I have on
that comment, BJ, was made by Barb Coon.
Sorry, BJ.
Well, I don't know how much sediment's in those ponds, and we're not having an issue with anything yet. So,
I figured you'd looked at it.
yeah. But just so I'm clear, it's approved, but we're gonna wait to see what's happening with the rec center. So I shouldn't be calling Tommy Fleetwood and say,
Please.
let's schedule something.
Give us a month or so.
But John, your equipment was approved.
Yeah,
I really don't know.
Your equipment was approved.
That's approved. So I'm calling the lease guy as soon as we walk out of here.
Yeah,
We're gonna get that going.
So we may be, Danny said we may be able to talk about it.
I guess I'll come right back over and get that on.
Well, depending on what happens.
You know,
Yeah.
Tommy Fleetwood?
Or something, question
No,
marks.
no. Just so you guys know, this contractor did the ponds at Bella Vista. So that's where I eventually found somebody, was just calling other golf courses and saying, look, who's come in and rebuild your ponds? You know, this guy's coming out of this, so.
You know, and this may go nowhere, but it might help you. I don't know if you know Robert Wolf, who, his wife, Sheila, has Wolf Fitness and Therapy.
Yeah.
Robert is in the earth moving business
Yeah.
locally and has some equipment, but he might know somebody locally, you know, in the immediate area that would be capable of doing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think it would be rocket science, but yet there's a lot of exact things that need to be done to stabilize a pond, I know. But,
You said Robert Wolf?
yep, Robert Wolf.
Wolf owns, he has worked on.
We, Barb Kuhn from the audience, Danny made a comment that we would really like to see this detention pond restoration move from the golf course's budget to some other area of our budget. And by the way, we approved the budget, so that's.
Okay, yes.
But could you administratively see if there's a way to move that?
Yes, sir.
Because it's not, as she pointed out, it's not about golf.
It's about drainage. and
It's about
which is-
drainage,
We'll
yeah.
move it to the roads department. Yes, sir.
Oh, you're
That's coming down.
See what it is.
Sorry, Danny.
We're gonna make it all look like
Thanks,
it's
John.
on this.
Yeah.
I always wanted to.
Smoke it back clear. This is essentially what the assessment schedule has been in previous years, not last year, because last year they changed it about $20 or something. It's back to what it was.
Okay.
So on this one, I live in an R1 improved paved.
$780.
So yours would be $780
Even.
even.
And a person with a vacant lot Paved would be 480,
Mhm.
and with a gravel lot, R1 vacant would be 420.
And the only change that I made to this board is that on the second line, I'm depicting on here what the settlement required after the lawsuit that occurred, and showing that $2,300 credit that was applied to specific properties.
Right.
And then it shows you what the balance was after that. But as I said, it's a 6% levy at 6% interest.
We probably need to make a motion to accept this.
If it's agreeable with the board.
Should we read it, what I just said, or I guess we can't read all of this, but so people know what we're voting on?
Yes, I think, and, you know, basically, what you would be voting on, if you were to make a motion to approve this, would be to go back to a 6% levy at 6% interest. The result would be an annual assessment payment due in 2022. As an example, R1 improved on a paved lot would be $780, which is exactly what they paid in 2020. And on a R1 vacant paved lot would be $480. So, and there are obviously a lot of other totals across this chart, but you know, for R2, R3 lots, that kind of thing.
It's be on the web after this again.
We'll get this published, won't we?
If you all approve it, yes.
Okay.
I make a motion that we approve the assessment schedule as presented this morning, with R1 improved paved paying $780, R1 improved gravel $720, R2 vacant $480, R2 improved $780, R3 vacant $720, R3 improved $1,020, C1 and C2 vacant $540, and C1, C2 improved $840, and timeshare $780.
I'll second it.
That was a mouthful.
I didn't intend to do that.
I'm not going to reread it.
I don't blame you.
The motion was made by Commissioner Childers, seconded by Commissioner Brown, to approve the assessment chart with the numbers that Commissioner Childers recited. Let's have a roll call, sir.
Yes. Chairman Dyer,
Yes.
Commissioner Childers,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Stamps,
Yes.
and Commissioner Brown, yes.
Motion's carried. Thank you very much.
So that's it.
Excellent work. We do have one remaining new business item on our agenda. Commissioner Stamps had asked a couple weeks ago, actually, that we might have a discussion around the process of building the agenda for our meetings, and I'm going to leave it to you, sir, to maybe lead this discussion.
Thank you. Now, I believe that we can be much more informed, make better decisions if we had a working meeting, not a voting meeting, just to sit down and figure out what the agenda is and what we need to take into consideration. A meeting, a pre-meeting meeting, I guess is what I'm asking for. And I think it would just benefit all of us so that we're all better informed and we can explain it better to anybody that's got a question about what do you do on that. You know, we're better informed. And I think we need to be informed on what we're doing, what instead of coming down for an hour's meeting saying, okay, here, we need to make this decision now. Let's know what that is. Let's explore every ramification. It's what I would like to do.
Mr. Chairman, in answer to Larry's proposal, I agree with that. And when I was on the board before, we used to have the third Monday of the month was a workshop session. It was a legal meeting, call for a meeting, publicized, and it was on Zoom. Well, we had it in this room. We didn't have Zoom back then. But you could make no motions then, and no business could be carried on other than discussion. It would sort of be like last Monday's 5.5-hour meeting. I don't think we had many of those, but we would just talk and among ourselves, and staff would give input. And then the next Monday, the fourth Monday, unless it was a holiday like whatever holiday it would be, but on the fourth Monday, then we had a shorter meeting. It would be the business meeting. You would approve action items like we did today. But last week would have been a planning meeting. This meeting Monday, the fourth meeting, would be an action only, and it would be much shorter.
Yes.
And I think we had a limit of like 3 hours or so, just for whatever. But I agree with you. I think we've done that in my career as a superintendent of schools. We used to do it that way in Texas and Colorado. Working meeting, no business approved. The next Monday or whatever the next week would be, would have, and you'd have public comment on both, but you'd only have action items on the second meeting. But I see that as well. Starting maybe January.
Yeah, I would have no problem with that, other than the fact that by regulation, our regular meetings are the third Monday. So we could back it up and have the working
Second.
meeting.
Me on the second Monday, whatever.
We could do that.
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I think that's,
Third of January.
shall we instruct staff to move forward with that starting in January? And
Yeah,
And
until January.
I'd like to make another request too, Danny, and that is that if we have items that are pretty, not complicated, but pretty broad in scope, that we have that a little earlier than Friday. And, you know, if there's a lot of printing to do, sometimes my printer goes down, but for this meeting, we've had, thank you very much for all this nice information, but
Yes.
if we could have it on Thursday, get it out to the board on Thursday, and I'd like to encourage, hopefully we're going to be out of Zoom someday, and we used to have 20, 25 people in here, and we had a lot of good public input, and we haven't had hardly any public input on Zoom, hardly none in the last year that I can recall, and I think people want to contribute and make comments and suggestions, but I think if we could have the paperwork a little before the meeting, and then we'd be able to study it, call and ask questions.
the issue of Zoom brings up kind of an interesting thing, and I don't know if you all have had a chance to read the mayor's latest letter on the city website, but Mayor Keith does an excellent job of communicating, obviously, and one thing that really stuck out is, you know, part of his letter was an apology for the fact that the Zoom
Went down.
was not correctly communicated. It was a wrong number, so they weren't able to do Zoom at their regular meeting. He put in this newsletter, and I'll read exactly the excerpt because I saved it. I thought it was good stuff. He said, "Going back to the worst days of the pandemic, it was basically a requirement that we use Zoom since there were mandates in place that prevented public gatherings. However, since those mandates have been lifted, we will offer Zoom going forward strictly as a courtesy." And I think that's very true. You know, we're not mandated to do Zoom, nor are we mandated to publish our minutes on the website, or, you know, none of these things. We do it as a courtesy, and because we are interested in transparency and making sure that our residents are all informed, and so hopefully going forward, Zoom will continue to perform for us, won't it, Carl? And we'll be able to have that secondary line of communication, but we need to realize that the primary part of an open meeting is having people come in and have a discussion, and we sure encourage everyone in Holiday Island to do that if they feel it's appropriate, so.
Yeah, indeed.
So we'll, starting the first of the year, the second Monday of every month, we'll have a work session, and then the third Monday, we'll have our regular meeting, and of course, special meetings are always an option, so.
Do we need a motion
Yeah.
on there?
I don't think we need a motion necessarily, but we'll just do it.
Okay, yeah, no, it's a very good idea.
The next item on our agenda today, any public comments at this time?
I'm good.
You're good, Barb? Thank you for your input. Anything out there in Zoom land, Carl?
I don't see anything.
Okay. Commissioner comments, any commissioner comments? Dale?
Just early voting starts today.
Yes,
I
it
think
does.
Laura said it earlier, 8 o'clock till 4:30 PM here at the admin building. And then election day is December 7th. So get informed, vote.
The only exceptions would be this Thursday and Friday, which are holidays because of the Thanksgiving holiday. But,
I just want to say thank you to all the department heads. 4 of you are sitting out there. I know you went to a lot of time and trouble to come away from your job, come here and explain to us what was going on, what you needed. But it really, really did help. Thank you so much for the time and energy that you put into all that. And because you've got to remember, we're not the experts. We look to you guys to tell us what needs to be done. So thank you for what you did.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brown?
Do they, do the people that have to vote or want to vote at starting today, do they come to the lobby, do they come here, or what?
Yes, sir. In fact, when I stepped out to go get that paperwork for you, there was a gentleman voting
Okay.
In the lobby.
in the lobby.
Okay.
In the lobby.
They have to show their ID.
The ID, okay.
Oh, I do have one question about that. Do they have at the office, the names, to vote, like if husband and wife want to vote, both names need to be on deed, right?
Yes.
Now, does the office have access to the deeds for each?
Yes.
They've got a printout, and they check off
Okay.
each voter as they come in.
Because I think I'm only on a deed on my house, but then I bought the Valley Drive property, and my wife, and I'm hoping I can get 2 votes.
You only get one vote,
No,
but your wife gets one.
that's what I'm
You
saying.
get one, your wife gets one. She might not want you.
All right, that brings me to the agenda scheduling. Given the fact that voting occurs on the 7th, or voting ends on the 7th, that's actually the election day, different than the early voting that's going on now. Votes will be tallied that evening and winners declared. We have options about when we swear those people in, the people who were successful. And
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I was just going to add to that. I think generally, December 7th voting day is declared a meeting day also. Is that not the?
We couldn't remember.
Yeah.
According to Carrie, that is a meeting day. After the votes are tallied, there's, I guess, a brief meeting to declare the winner or something to that effect.
Yeah.
Bob, I can do it.
Huh?
I can do it.
Okay, well, I don't remember that from last year.
We just don't remember.
I don't know if they have a meeting that day.
I don't.
See, we did.
I got that from Carrie. Just this morning, she said, don't forget to tell the board that December 7th will be a meeting.
See, Bob
Well,
remembers that
there
like
were no
Kenny,
commissioners here last year.
Bob remembers it like Kenny did, that they just counted it and they posted it. And we were sworn in later,
Yeah.
but I don't remember
I
when.
think it was the next day last year. And other years it
Next
was.
day, so
Would you like for me to
you guys
see if
gotta
Carrie
come in
can
and start
clarify?
implementing.
I'm happy to get her to step in for me if you.
Yeah.
Let's do
It
it.
it
We need
doesn't
to
make
work
any
it
difference.
out.
Okay.
What I was gonna propose was that we have a special meeting on the 13th and first swear the people in, and then have our meeting and elect officers, do all of our business that we need to do, and that would satisfy our meeting for the month of December. But we'll see what Terry says.
I think we've done it a couple of ways, because I was on from 11 to 14, and we had, one year, I think we had a meeting the next morning, very next morning, and otherwise, we've done other ways.
We need some accrued history.
Well, on election day, you guys will have a meeting and open the voting on election day. And then when the voting is over, you'll come back and you will close the meeting, close the voting, and then we'll count ballots.
Did we do that last year? Why?
I never saw anybody here last year other than
It's not
you all.
well attended.
Oh,
Because of COVID?
COVID?
Okay.
But
So we
now,
come in at 8 o'clock in the morning?
yeah, that's, I mean, we've done that probably the last 5 years. Was like election day is a meeting, and you guys have a meeting and open up the voting, and then you come back, do we quit voting at 6:30? And then you close the meeting at 6 or 6:30.
But
And then we,
then, Carrie, then, we didn't have election of officers and so forth, that would be like the next day, we usually have done it the next day.
well, we count the ballots that night.
Yeah,
And then,
we post the result.
and usually the next day, you have them sworn in and elect your new officers.
Okay. But it's not required the next day, but usually that's been the practice.
Yeah, that's what the practice has been. I don't know the legality of it, but,
Okay.
He doesn't say anything in the regulations about it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you, Carrie.
It doesn't make any difference. I'm out of town for both election day and the day after.
I mean,
So I will be out of pocket. Suzanne can,
we can open and
Sure.
close it, I'll be
yeah,
here.
yeah.
Do we do it at 8 o'clock? Or
That's-
7:30 or what?
I think it'd have to be like 7:30.
7:30?
Voting starts at 8.
I'll be here.
That's at least 3 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. 7:30 a.m. on December the 7th.
And then 6:30, 6:40.
6, I think.
Okay.
On that same day.
On that
Yeah.
same day.
6:30, she said, voting closes.
Okay.
I thought the ballots had to be in the 6 p.m. But it usually takes them a couple hours to come.
So when are you going to be back?
I would be available on the 9th.
On the 9th. And is the only thing we do in that meeting is to swear in the new people?
And
And,
elect
and
officers.
have elect officers?
Swear in, yes, we would have Jack Deaton come over and swear in the successful,
If we had it on the 13th, we could have a regular meeting if there are any other items.
I was gonna say, yeah, if we, let's say that we did it at 9:30, we had a special meeting at 9:30 to swear in the people and, vote for officers, and then have the regular meeting, oh, I said 9:30, no, 8:30, and then 9 o'clock for the regular meeting, and get it all done in one day.
No, it's on December 7th, we have to be here at 7:30 and open the polls.
Mhm.
And then at
It's
6 or 6:30, we close the
yeah,
polls.
she's talking about a totally different thing.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm talking about swearing people in and the election of officers. Let's do that at 8:30 on the 13th. And then at 9 o'clock, we'll have the regular meeting for December.
Okay.
Would that not work?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay with me.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's do it that way.
There's no reason you have to have it at 8:30, you could do a regular 9 o'clock meeting, and just swearing in and.
Just do that first.
Just an agenda.
Well,
be a part of your?
I kind of wanted to have the new commissioners sworn in before we open the meeting, so that we can
Yeah.
have a forum there, so.
Okay.
Election day is 8:30 to 6.
8:30.
8:30,
Yeah.
so we don't have to be here till 8 o'clock. Yay, I got 30 minutes that way.
All right, Suzanne. That's your part of it to drive. So y'all know what you need to do on election day the 7th.
Yes.
Be here no later than 8:30 to open the meeting, or open voting, and then be back here at 6 o'clock to close.
Maybe Danny can send a reminder.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And then on the 13th, we will have a meeting to have the new commissioners sworn in by Jack Eaton, followed by a
Election of officers.
election, open a regular meeting, have an election of officers, and any other business that needs to be handled in December.
Sounds
Am I
good.
right?
That's clear as mud.
Yeah. That's right. I got to work.
All right, could I have a motion to adjourn?
I second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Kelson, seconded by Commissioner Stamps to adjourn this meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, and good work, everybody.
Thank y'all for coming.
My wife is out, so I'm gonna vote.
Thank you.
Ah,
My wife's here to vote.
so you're that guy. Oh, vote on the first day?
Usually they're a lot older, but you do a pretty good job.
Thank you.
Oh, does he?
Thanks, guys.
I'd like to clarify at the end that we do, because it's courtesy.
Here we go.
All right, now. All right, let's move away. See that way. That's what I was wondering.
So Danny slipped out, okay? So Danny slipped out of here without even told me.
At some point, I'm gonna take a list of all of
So what did you find out about the meeting?
Well, that's what I want
I will
to
go
know.
through the minutes,
He acted like
starting with,
This you're like.
Yeah, I didn't, you know, I'm sitting there listening.
Well, I know, that's what I wanted. I thought we would have a little discussion about it.
Yeah, let's go cornering.
Our engine.
Dan?
But it's one of those that you can have.
Yeah, thank you. And so, but the water department, so the new, you know, hydrants and bigger lines, there's always safety issues. We've already discovered that. Yeah, we've already had issues with it, and luckily on you know, oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, when you tie into safety or this, you know, it's just like
I'll tell you what, you'd be surprised. We had to call the police. I feel everybody I've talked to, nothing but positive. And it's the legality issue, trying to go, hey, how do we get out of that? District, put our money in the county to keep it here.
Well, that was the thing I didn't understand, you know, is someone said, well, where do we get a 5-year contract? Well, we're already into it, we've already got a new contract.
Let me just say this, that Rick was pretty flexible on that committee. On the way they do it, and so what they did was, yes, it's a 5-year contract, but
That makes sense. So basically, right now, 10 years is how they put it, and they try to make it, well, 5-year increments. Oh, absolutely. I think it'll come down to the vote, and that's my.
But this is something that needs to be done sooner than later, always.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, you can get out of there anytime.
Oh, okay.
It'll just come down to our. And we will know what's in the contract. We don't want to do that contract. Our two bids, we bid, all right, tax line, that goes straight. That's gonna be the hard part, taking that back. Oh, so that's
Doing well, and it's gonna take a while. What's your problem? Pardon? What is your problem? What problem do I have? You what? The usual. I've always had arthritis. Oh, yeah. Everybody's got some of it. Yeah. Yeah. All righty. There's something in the air, which is kind of. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
There we go. I'll give it to him. Give it to my neighbor. You would have to have a blood. Thank you.
Thank you for not holding it.
Everybody else might not realize where you're going, huh? Okay, bye.
Thank you, guys. So can I vote now? It's on here? Or no? You know? Can I vote, Charles? It's on here? Can I vote? It's on here?
Yeah, you need to see your driver's license.
Oh, okay. Make sure I'm me?
Yep.
We have to treat everybody the same.
Make sure I'm me. That's fine.
Or you don't need to take it out.
Okay.
Okay.
Me, I'm running.
Oh, I need you to sign up with me.
Okay. Oh, I must not, I did this on there.
Yeah,
Does it matter, sign on the side or in the here? That works?
yeah, that's good. You can sign over here. This goes.
James, that's not going to go $500?
You can sit over there if you want.
I'm just kind of torn between, I don't know.
Hi.
Hey,
You want to vote?
I guess, maybe.
I need to see your driver's license.
Make sure it's in.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
And just put it in the hole there and we're good to
Yeah.
go. All right.
Regina,
All right, thank you guys.
the water,
Good to see
the
you.
water programs that we're using is into the attic, correct? Okay.
Well, soft water with into that.
Okay, soft water with into that. Soft water with into that.
Okay, my wife is on one of these, right?
Yeah.
So where do I sign up, right?
It is not right here.
Cancel?
No, okay, you can, and then you stick it in the box. You don't need to fold it or anything. Oh, yeah, I mean, we'll see.
Miss Regina, I guess I'm asking you just because you being closest to me, do you have some Advil or something?
You know what, I do have Tylenol, so I had to go home and get some the other day.
Well, I need Advil.
Did you get it in? Oh, no, I just have
I
Tylenol.
wonder if Carrie runs.
Hey, thank you, ladies. You all
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Carrie,
you.
would you happen to
Have a
have?
good Thanksgiving.
Well, we got to do it on Saturday. My wife doesn't work.
We'll still have a good Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
But everything you celebrate on.
I think I'll make you a nice, turkey sandwich.
There you go.
All right, take it easy.
I didn't know whether to get Tylenol or Advil. My back.
I don't know. You can take it, Advil, you take time off if you have to.
And then Advil is the ibuprofen,
Yeah.
kidney issues.
But I think my kidney was probably I was at a room that I was down to I think they very much in common. I think we're trying to put back in, quite something I go back in where we go with. They have to just,
Question of that down the line, I don't know if you can, I actually own a lot,
Okay.
and I'm thinking of doing a house down line on it. Do you have anything in writing that states all the...
The restrictions?
Yes.
Well, you could talk to the city, the mayor. What unit is it in?
Twin Peaks,
Unit 5 probably?
excuse me?
Is that unit 5?
It's like 54, 53 or something like that.
But what unit? Have you been on our webpage?
I have been on the webpage, and I'm not that good at the internet, but yeah.
What's your name?
Denny, John and Sheila, we just bought the lot, a month and a half ago.
I wonder, do you have a deed? I wonder. Is it unit 5? Do you know the unit?
No, I don't.
Because all the units are set by, have their own set of restrictions.
And I know it's that way, if you're going on the main road, it's on that side.
Right, but it's,
And there's houses all right in that area too.
right.
I just want to know about square footage and setback and all that
Who
kind of.
did you buy the lot from?
Julie?
I mean, who is the owner?
Oh,
I'm gonna see if I can look it up.
that I couldn't top of my
How
head.
do you spell your name?
Demeny.
Let me see if it's in my system. Here's, a set of restrictions.
Okay.
Now, I have your address, is your billing address supposed to be in
Wisconsin?
Janesville or here? Because I have it both, I have one for each
It'll
of
be in
them.
Wisconsin. I
Okay.
still live there. We're gonna be retiring in a couple of years. We found this place and we like it.
Okay.
And if everything goes good, in about 3 years I'm looking at doing it. So some of this could change, but I'm trying to get a design
Right.
in
It'll
progress.
give me the ID, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I have one lot has your Janesville address, and then one lot has your Twin Peaks address, so
Yeah.
I'll make it both
They'll
Janesville.
both be in Janesville, 2532 Andre.
Okay, yeah, I think that's what I
Yes.
have. Okay.
Because I'm assuming that right after the first year is your bill.
Yeah, we set the bills out in February.
That's fine.
Okay.
And if you look at our website, I mean, which you've done, do you get the newsletter? If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you
Okay.
can, sign up for the newsletter. Terry sends that out about once a week. And, I mean, it'll just give you an idea of things going on. When you move down here, you can just jump right in.
So we're getting close to retiring. My wife was retired before I do, but in the same point, that's about the time I figured. But I figured if I don't get started and think about it now, yeah.
Right, no, that's good.
So I'm ready. That's what, if I come up with any other questions,
Yeah, just give us a call.
we'll give you a call. But yeah, so, okay.
Are you here for the week or?
No, it just actually comes down to about 3 days, 4 days.
Oh, that's quite a drive.
9 hours. And we all stay in Branson all the time, and they're coming down here, then this is a lot cheaper than Branson, so it's close enough.
Okay. Okay.
All right, thank you much, dear. Thank you.
Huh? I've got 20 good more years. You know, that's really what I want. I don't care after that. But, I mean, I'm 67. I'll be 68 in February. But, you know, I just want 20 good more years. I don't ask for a lot, but you want to live to 94. My dad was in his house till 86. He's phenomenal.
My uncle that raised me, he was my and in the regular home, we can do a hospital, and the doctor, she almost 6 years, and she said, you know, I said, if I thought I could live, he's right there.
Right, well, that's what it is.
My dad told me a year before he died that he was ready to go. But he, you know, he had some dementia, but I kept him on the list, even though he was on hospice. And hospice wanted to discontinue it, and I said, no. I said, it's fine, it would stop in our memory. So whatever he got, I want him to be able to retain it. And he goes, are you sure that's fair to him? I said, it's fair to me. I said, because I can't do that. Oh, really?
And all the girls, and high school girls, and they, and they went upside down and everything.
Great memory.
He was all kind of thing. And then, that he, that I put my name in there. Nursing home, dropped, sitting in a row of those.
Oh, that's nice. I took, after that, a heart surgery, that, and we had to take him to the nursing home to rehab, and he did a good rehab. So sad.
He was so precious. I can remember growing up out here, living on the country, and he always smoked cigarettes. And he had his parents out there, and he'd sit outside in the middle of the day, looking right in the window, and smoking cigarettes with her, and he used to do that. We had this world Anyway, so we sit there and we kind of stuff off all of those things and sit there, and that was the day, and we
Thank you, Dan.
Well, I think we're done, aren't we?
Yeah. Order it. Order it, Dana. Order it. I'm gonna put your mattresses in your car.
Oh, okay, the drama could come down and get on the place and had on.
What are you doing in her car?
Send me the back pieces, something.
What are you doing? Putting mattresses in her car.
Send the back of my car.
And I brought the blow-up nut too.
Oh, thank you, yeah.
You need help? No, the guy was supposed to come get my van at the end of the day. It's like I'm gonna get that. But he's sick. Or he's worthless. Well, I don't know. He got some pictures. This is the guy that advertised on Facebook. You know what? I don't trust him. This is like my damn painter. I'm so sick of him. I just want the house painted. I just want it over. I gave him $500 because his engine blew out in his car. And I was going to give that to him. And then Friday night, he tells me, well, you still got to buy the screen. I said, all right, I'll give you another 1,000, and you take mine, whatever it costs out of that 1,000 for the screen. So I'm going to ask you for the bill for the screen, and I'm going to write him a check for it. And I'm going to say, you know, if you put a nickel and dime on this screen, that $500 that I gave you for your car, I was going to let it go, but I'm down to this from you without paying you.
So does this go in your house?
Yes. And he's still not finished.
How long is the list?
It's been about a month. He gets this house down here, he's staying in town. The guy is good, but he has a time problem. He just shows up to work about 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Because that's when we find out.
I guess, I have no idea. Regina, how's the voting going?
Well, we've had several.
Have you?
Today, I was running twice, and I had 2.2. We've had 16.
Oh, you counted?
Well, I had 30 absentees, and we're on number 46.
Oh, okay. She is so efficient. Hey, Regina,
Yeah.
they approved ordering the 2-1,
Oh, the.
and they're gonna order, radio controlled, meters too.
Yeah, sure they are.
No, they are. We're ordering 30. Because it came with it, I got to give it 30.
Oh, when you say radio control, what do you mean?
There's those bills walk by and they're reading the meter.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm. They're $140 each. But,
They won't have to take the top off or anything? Really? And they'll go up street on and everything? Well,
So,
oh my
and
goodness.
so I said, let's just do 100
So
a
then
year.
anybody can do that.
Then we're going to do 100 a year. And then I'm going to raise the rate. Regina, do we have to vote on it about raising the rate on new installation? Who made the vote on it? The board's going to approve it. I'm going to raise the.
You're raising the installation rate?
We're raising it what? $100. Because I want to put the.
Turn on to your installation.
The term. The installation, the two-thirds.
For water?
Water.
Well, it's a new propane company, Pioneer Propane, I'll never heard of that.
$9 more. All these houses are going to be for a rate of $100. Right. The new installation fee. Now. Well, I told them that we're going to vote on it and approve it. Yes, the next meeting. Oh my God. December the 7th. December the 7th and December, January is the one's going to be screwed.
So you're gonna have a new board vote?
Uh-huh.
So where are they going to turn in?
The 13th. Right, we're waiting for the
Did Danny go home? Oh my God. That was a meeting to be had. They took the road deposit. Rebecca has no sound. Official request for audio. Oh my God. God help me. So I'm gonna see if Bruce can tell me if I can take the computer to him. You know, this job can drive you to swear, I think. Oh, yes, I do have it. I can't believe they got the budget approved.
For the commission meeting.
Yeah, thank God. This thing fell on the floor and it started acting up. So.
Hold on, this is not the commission. It is for that one. No, we've been out sometime. Carl, this is Rebecca.
Okay. Hi. So did it cut off or what? Mm-hmm. I just gave it to him. Why? Okay. Mm-hmm. 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 The only person that told me they didn't have sound was at one point